The desert stretched for miles, painted gold by the morning sun. Dust swirled around the boots of a man who'd been walking for far too long. His name was Eli Ward, a drifter, a former soldier, and a man with nothing left to lose. His horse had died 2 days ago, his last coin spent on a half bottle of whiskey, and his heart, though still beating, was as empty as the sky above him. He reached a ridge where the land dipped into a valley. Below lay a creek that shimmered faintly in the light, and beside it grazed a black stallion, wild, proud, and untamed. Eli watched the animal lift its head, mane glistening like ink under the sun. For a moment, the man forgot the ache in his bones. There was something noble about that creature, something pure in a world that had long forgotten purity. Eli made his way down, moving slow, careful not to spook it. The stallion turned, snorting, its muscles tense. "Easy, boy," Eli whispered. "Ain't no harm meant." But the horse didn't trust him. Why should it? Men were the reason the world had gone sour. When Eli reached the water, he knelt and drank, feeling life return to his limbs. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the stallion step closer, curious. Then the sharp crack of a rifle shattered the silence. The horse reared, screaming, as a bullet tore into the dirt beside it. Eli spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for the gun that wasn't there. He'd pawned it for food days earlier. From the ridge, 2 riders approached, their laughter echoing through the canyon. "Well, I'll be," one of them said, grinning. "Looks like we found ourselves a thief and a prize all in one." "I ain't stealing," Eli said, standing slowly. The man spat into the dust. "Everything out here belongs to someone, stranger. That horse is ours." The stallion reared again, panicking, and Eli moved without thinking. He leapt forward, cutting the rope the riders had thrown and slapping the horse's flank. The animal bolted, galloping into the horizon, black mane whipping through the wind. The riders cursed and fired, one shot grazing Eli's arm. He hit the dirt hard, pain flashing white through his shoulder. When he came to, the sun had shifted, and the riders were gone. Blood crusted on his sleeve. The stallion was nowhere to be seen. He managed to stand, dizzy but breathing, and followed the faint tracks leading west. Hours passed. When he finally saw smoke rising against the sunset, he thought it might be another mirage. But as he drew closer, the shape of a small ranch appeared, fence half broken, barn leaning like an old man's back, and a porch where a woman sat cleaning a rifle. She noticed him long before he spoke. "You look half dead," she said, voice calm but firm. "Feel that way too," he muttered. "Name's Eli. Just need some water, maybe a place to rest." The woman studied him, her eyes steady. "You're bleeding," she said. "Not much," he lied. "Lies don't hold up long out here," she replied, standing. "Come on, I'll clean it before it festers." Inside, the house smelled of wood smoke and coffee. A black stallion stood in the corral outside, and Eli's breath caught. "That your horse?" he asked. The woman glanced toward the window. "Found him wandering near the creek this morning," she said. "Wild thing. Won't let me near him yet." Eli smiled faintly. "He's got a good reason not to trust people. Don't we all?" she said softly. Her name was Clara Hayes, widow of a rancher who died defending his land from outlaws. She ran the ranch alone now, though it was barely standing. When she finished bandaging his wound, she offered him coffee. He stayed the night in the barn, and for the first time in years, Eli slept without dreams. Days turned into weeks. He helped mend fences, repaired the barn roof, and tamed the stallion that refused to let anyone close. The animal had fire in its eyes, but Eli understood it. Both of them carried scars they didn't speak of. "You're good with him," Clara said one evening, leaning against the fence as Eli brushed the stallion's coat. "He just needs to know I ain't his enemy." She smiled, faintly. That's rare out here. So was peace, he thought. But in that quiet stretch of land, with Clara's laughter drifting through the evening air, Eli began to feel something he'd thought was lost: purpose. One morning, Clara rode into town for supplies, leaving Eli to tend the ranch. By noon, he saw dust rising from the east, 3 riders, guns at their sides. The same men from the ridge. Well, hell, one said, grinning as they approached. Didn't expect to find you alive, stranger. And look at that. The stallion too. Eli stood his ground. You best turn around, he warned. Funny, the man sneered. That's what your friend said before we shot him. Before Eli could move, they drew their guns. The black stallion screamed, breaking free of the corral. Eli dove behind a trough as bullets splintered the fence. He grabbed a fallen rifle from the ground, Clara's, and fired back. The first outlaw dropped. The others took cover, circling the barn. Eli ran for the stallion, vaulting onto its back though the animal fought against him. Come on, boy, he shouted, gripping tight. Together, they thundered toward the attackers. Gunfire cracked like thunder, dust rising around them. Eli fired once, twice, both shots hitting true. The last man fell. Silence returned, heavy as the sun overhead. Eli slid from the stallion, chest heaving. The animal nudged his shoulder as if checking if he was alive. Eli laughed weakly, blood on his hands, dust in his hair. We did it, didn't we? When Clara returned, she found the bodies buried, the fence half burned, and Eli sitting on the porch, arm wrapped tight in bandages. She dropped her reins and ran to him. You're bleeding again, she said. He smiled. Seems to be a habit. You saved my land, she whispered. You didn't have to. I owed you, he said. And maybe, I owed him too. He looked toward the black stallion grazing near the creek, calm now, the wildness dimmed to something softer. She sat beside him, quiet for a while. You could stay, Eli. Lord knows this place could use a man like you. He looked out at the horizon, the endless stretch of dust and sky. You sure about that? I am, she said. But only if you want to. The wind carried the faint sound of the stallion's whinny. Eli reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver medallion, a keepsake from the war. He'd planned to leave it at some nameless grave, a token for all the things he'd lost. Instead, he placed it in Clara's hand. Guess I've finally got something worth keeping, he said softly. That night, the desert sky was clear and wide, stars glinting like tiny promises. Eli stood by the corral, the black stallion beside him. The animal nudged his shoulder again, calm and proud. Looks like we both found our peace, huh? Eli murmured. The stallion flicked its ear, and for a moment, the man and the beast seemed carved from the same story. Both survivors, both carrying the weight of the past, both finding redemption in the same patch of dusty land. Weeks passed, and the ranch began to breathe again. Fences rebuilt, crops planted, laughter returning to the porch where once there had only been silence. Eli never spoke much about his past, and Clara never asked. Some stories didn't need telling. They were written in the way he looked at her, or how he reached for her hand when the wind grew cold. One evening, a storm rolled over the plains. Lightning tore across the sky, and the stallion grew restless. Eli went to calm him, whispering softly, but the animal reared and broke free, bolting into the dark. Without hesitation, Eli mounted another horse and followed. He found the stallion trapped near the riverbank, its leg caught between rocks, the water rising fast. Eli waded in, rain pounding against his back, hands working frantically to free the animal. Hold still, boy, he shouted, water swirling around them. You ain't dying here. With one final pull, the stallion broke free, but the current took Eli downriver. The world spun in flashes of thunder and water and light. When the storm passed, the horse stood trembling on the bank, neighing into the dawn. Clara found the stallion the next morning, standing guard beside Eli's still body. She fell to her knees, tears mixing with the rain-soaked earth. The medallion she'd given back to him glinted faintly in his palm. Weeks later, when the land dried and the sky cleared, Clara built a small wooden marker near the creek. She carved his name with her own hands. Eli Ward. He kept his promise. The black stallion never left the ranch after that. Each evening, when the wind whispered through the grass, Clara would swear she could hear Eli's voice carried with it, a soft murmur, a vow fulfilled. And somewhere in that lonely stretch of the west, where the earth met the horizon and the sunsets burned red as old wounds, the black stallion's promise lived on. A tale of love, sacrifice, and the redemption only a wild heart could bring.